Hi, my name is Diane Goebel, and I've written an ebook called Reincarnation and the Evolution of Consciousness. And right now I'm going to read from one of the chapters, this one called The Challenge of Being Fully Human. Our soul's greatest challenge is to meld harmoniously with a physical form, awaken its consciousness to self-awareness, then to its divine nature during one lifetime. This constitutes our eternal spiritual journey, which includes study at home as a being of light and overcoming the struggle of survival on the planet as a physical being. The difficulty is in balancing the animalistic nature of the physical form with the altruistic nature of the spiritual being. The animal nature craves sex, power, competition, wealth, accumulation, material things, and physical beauty. The spiritual nature is creativity, harmony, compassion, inner peace, and the greatest of all, love. This is the unconscious battle that goes on within each human being as we learn to live with ourselves and with each other in this challenging physical environment we find ourselves existing in together. Ancient people struggled as much trying to understand what universal principles awakened life on this planet as we do today. They sought answers in the night sky. We seek knowledge in the tiniest particles. They made gods out of the stars. We make gods out of particles. The truth is not in between. It encompasses all that is, from the micro to the macro. As we learn more through science, our collective consciousness expands to include new knowledge, and we gain a more accurate understanding of how the entire universe evolved from one event, before which there was apparently no things, no matter. When we combine this with philosophy and theology instead of dismissing the source of creation, we are able to see the bigger picture, how it all fits together as a whole. It's as if God snapped its fingers, matter and antimatter collided, the God particles split off. The process that has resulted in what we observe today began. It's not a choice, it's all the same. Shift happens. When physical forms on this planet evolve sufficiently enough to be able to carry out the work of a soul desiring to project itself into the physical dimension, the process of ensouling human beings began. A soul is the spark that awakened consciousness in early humans. Human beings were forced to survive in a hostile environment and to band together to fight off threats to their survival. We were afraid of everything: dark, lightning, wild animals, thunderstorms, our shadow, our reflection in a puddle of water. None of it made any sense. Everything was a potential threat. We were more animal than human, barely conscious, unaware of ourselves as individual beings. Which physical forms? Scientists would say chimpanzees are closest to humans genetically. What I observed during my journey on the other side was life emerging from the sea. There was a period of physical evolution during which a mammalian species existed on the land as well as in the sea and gradually evolved to be more adaptable to the land. These were smooth-skinned, hairless, upright bipeds with flippers and gills who could hunt in the sea as well as on the land. Ancients called them mermaids. Archaeologists will eventually discover this missing link as sea levels change and new land is available to study. I remember during my first experience scuba diving over a coral reef in the crystal clear waters off Nassau in the Bahamas when I was 20 years old. This wonderland of amazing colors and formations, teeming with an endless variety of life forms, appeared before my eyes. It felt so familiar, so comfortable, like I'd spent many lifetimes living as part of this environment. When I swam with a pod of porpoises, it was like being with family. Through projecting many short lifetimes, we learned and we became strong and we met the challenges nature put in front of us, and we evolved and survived as a species. Each human learning experience contributes to our soul growth, and the soul learns to bond more closely with its human form to further awaken the next human being it projects. There were times when higher consciousness evolved, but was extinguished by acts of violence among warring kingdoms, political upheaval, religious persecutions, and earth changes. Great libraries were burned and knowledge was scattered and lost by ignorance and carelessness. When we look back over the oral and written history and include all of the ancient stories, whether they were myths or reality-based, we can see there have been mass awakenings of consciousness that are easily recognized in retrospect. Some involved a single geographic area and people, like the Egyptian Empire. Others a large geographic area and many different countries, like the European Renaissance. These were times when creativity flourished, times when the soul was able to synthesize its nature with that of human beings. These were also times when ideas about God were discussed and argued, and from which dogma emerged. We took ourselves from being at the mercy of nature to praying to nature to save us. Humans went from believing that the sun was God to believing that God is our Heavenly Father who watches over us. From believing that gods control the planet and all humans to there is no God and it's every man for himself. We're really not here to understand God. We're here to learn about who we are in relation to God. The goal of the soul is not to finally be able to project a perfect human specimen as if Earth were a laboratory and God would then grant some prize or preferred position. It is simply to experience life on this planet in a variety of human forms, in a variety of situations, in order to learn as much as we can about existence in a physical world, which a soul can't do without a physical body. Soul sees this world through our human eyes, experiences the world through our physical senses. For this opportunity, the human being is given free will to be in control of its own life experience. Whatever we do in our life, our soul experiences and learns through our actions. We are simply souls attending Earth University. Our human free will is what gets us into karmic trouble. Our soul sets up challenges, lessons to help us learn about love, peace, compassion, cooperation, humility. Our human attracts people and situations into its life to provide us with learning opportunities. There is no judgment. Our choices determine the outcome. Good choices dissolve karma. Bad choices create new karma. We learn from our mistakes or we repeat lessons until we do. It is not a sin. It may be against the law, but actually it's all simply energy in action. People are always asking me, why do we forget that we are spiritual beings when we are born? Each new human's first years of life are occupied with learning to operate our bodies and brains, to make sense out of the world we are born into. If an adult tells us this is a table and that is a chair, then that is what we believe it is. We're conditioned to believe what we're told the world is and come to believe it as if it were completely true in our later years, even if our earlier experiences contradicted that reality. Children who have imaginary friends are not mentally ill. They see what adults tell them they cannot see. Like in the movie The Sixth Sense, they see dead people. They see angels. They see into the spiritual dimension. No wonder humans grow up gullible, not knowing what to believe. As young children, our connection to our soul is still open. If not before, by age 7 or 8, the connection is usually closed. In some cases, severed, often by very fear-filled adults. We do remember. Life teaches us to forget. We're not sure whether what we actually see and feel is real until someone tells us, and we accept their statement as either true or false. Science reinforces this by thinking that neural activity in specific regions of the brain cause subjective experiences in the mind without recognizing the mind as the source. It's the brain that registers a thought as an electrical charge which stimulates the appropriate neurons to cause the body to react to physical experiences. The soul mind activates specific regions of the brain to react to physical experiences. Thought comes first. The thinker is the outcome of the thought. We know what we're going to do before we do it. We don't know that we know it, but after the fact, we often realize we did. I saw it coming. I knew I shouldn't have done that. It was right on the tip of my tongue. Consciousness doesn't exist inside the brain. It is not a function or a product of the brain. Consciousness surrounds the brain and continues on after the body dies. Consciousness is the thought. The thought creates the thinker, which activates the brain. I had an entire conversation with my soul in the few seconds before I yelled to the guy in the raft holding onto my arm to let me go about what was the best way to die, because I was obviously going to die. That was the only fact I was reacting to. My brain cells may have been shutting down, my visual field fading away during this split second between life and death. But consciously, it was as if time slowed down almost to a stop, and I had all the time in the world to make this decision. I was completely conscious, very calm, aware of my situation and what was happening around me, and focused on finding a solution. I hope that interests you enough to read more about the book Reincarnation and the Evolution of Consciousness. Namaste.